If you have an extra, I'll put them in here. I have it electronically, so I asked them.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 22nd, 2022 Verona Public Schools Board of Education meeting. We're calling the meeting to order. It is 7:06, and I do appreciate your patience while we got a couple of things straightened out, so thank you. We're going to all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The reading of the meeting notice. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the open meeting session that the Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its annual reorganization meeting held on January 4th, 2022. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Cedar Grove Times, the Star Ledger, the Township of Verona, and the BEA. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted at the Verona Board of Education office and on the Verona Public Schools District website. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public and the press. Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call for attendance?
Sure. Mr. Walker,
Present remotely.
Mr. Day,
Present here.
Mrs. Drappi,
Just here.
Mrs. Prisco,
Present.
Mrs. Freshy.
Here.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are going to start off with our presentations, and we have Dr. Miller with the advanced placement presentations. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we're good, Mr. Balash? All right, we'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight to celebrate all of our hardworking students. Some are still in high school and some who are at the next level, college, university. And we're so glad to see you and your parents. I did send an email yesterday. I've realized, and we've known this is our 10th year doing this, that if some of your sons and daughters are still in college, you could come get the certificate if you're one of the parents, because you're a part of the process for everyone, while they were doing this over the 4 years they were here. And some of you that are presently here, it's good to see you again. So we always start with our mission statement. In partnership with a supportive community, we inspire our students to be creative, critical thinkers, compassionate global citizens through dynamic teaching, meaningful curricula, and enriching experiences. And that really sums up why a lot of us are here today. Acknowledgements. We'd like to thank all the students for the many lost hours of sleep, for all the hard work that you put in, the dedication to your subjects. If you're in at the higher level now at college, university, I think some of you have seen how the hard work pays off and how you're prepared. It's a good feeling when you're in school, especially college, university, or if you're an upperclassman, you're like, wow, I'm using some of this. I'd like to thank all the teachers that teach the entire AP curriculum. I know it seems like a lot, but they're charged with teaching a lot of information to you, delivering high quality instruction, very flexible and understanding, especially coming out of COVID, and creating assessments that were challenging because you're like, oh man, and unique. And we'd like to thank all the parents, guardians, and extended family who really help all of your children during these processes. We'd also like to thank our administrative team and teaching staff from all the way down from elementary school, from pre-K and kindergarten, because that's where it starts, all the way through senior year, our superintendent, as well as the Board of Education for your continued support. So we start in 2009 because in 2009 is when Verona decided, the Board of Education decided to open up and to take the walls down from advanced placement to let many children take AP classes. It used to be before that, that tests, you had to take an entrance test and only certain students got in. So starting in 2009, the walls came down and more students were allowed to take advanced placement classes. And you see in 2009, there were around 82 students. It's very small. And as you can see, and how many tests were administered in 2009 is 145, and it grew. It peaked in 2020 when COVID hit at 647 tests. And we've come down a little, but I think part of that is the COVID drag, but we had nearly 500 tests administered and 269 students. That's pretty incredible. It's nearly half, as you'll see with some statistics that I share next, population. So when we look back at 2009, again, we had 14% of our students total were in an advanced placement class. Since 2017, over 40% of our students. So what's good about this, and we're not about test scores, it's about challenging yourself in high school with college courses while you're still here. You can see your teachers often, you can contact them a lot. When you get into college, sometimes you have class once that whole week. It's a 3-hour session and you're left to your own devices. So we like to offer the rigor here, but also where you can see your teachers very often. It's helpful and it's a good stepping stone before you get to college. As far as participation, when we look at language arts and world language, over the last 5 years, so 2018 is in blue. It got quieter, good. 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, it's in order. So we have English language comp with Dr. Meyer, we have English lit with Mr. White, we have Chinese and French and Spanish, so that's been their participation. And then we move into history. We did have one student in 2018 take comparative government and politics. That's the little tiny thing there. We had Euro history once. It's back again this year, but that's been a class where we've been trying to gain more students to take it. It tends to happen after AP US history. So Mr. Moore is teaching that this year. We have human geo, which has really good participation. We'll get into that later. That's a highlight. Psychology, huge participation. A lot of students like taking psychology. US history, which is really a 2-year course. It's an honors and sophomore year and an AP because it's culminating at junior year. You have government and politics with Dr. Tambrow, and then you have world history with Mrs. Sepsi. And then we get into math. We have calculus, A, B, and B, C, but if you combine them, they would be the highest. So we have a lot of students take calculus. We have computer science. Computer science, we had 63 students in 2018, and then it went down a little, then it went back up. It's also because we introduced computer science principles. So Mr. Wirtz and Mrs. Russell and Mr. Callie helps out sometimes, our physics teacher, with those courses. And then we have statistics, which overall has good participation. And then we go to science and Mr. Harris with biology, a good steady number. Chemistry with Dr. Webe. And then we have environmental science, which is really big. I wish more students would take environmental science. Physics 1, which we started, and then we've held on for now because, well, the amount of teachers we have, and also the AP Physics is a really tough course. It's algebra based, but it's challenging, and we're working on that. And then Physics C Mechanics with Mr. Callie. The percent total AP students with scores 3 or better in 2018 was around 72%. It peaked again in 2020, and we have dropped a little. This is a national trend as well. I think as we get used to learning again, and I will say, I think after 2020, a lot of us figured out what was really important, and it wasn't always AP. It was our families and our loved ones. And so I think there was a good message through that, even though there were tough times. But I think we will start moving back up again because we forget things quickly. And then through equity and excellence, this is a nice little report. So the graduating class from last year, more than half of the students scored at least one exam scored 3 or higher. So that's good. That's a really good goal. We like to increase that if we can, but the idea is more than half of the students took at least one AP where they scored a 3 or more, where if you score a 3, it means you have a possibility of getting college credit at a university or college that you attend. The 12th, 11th, and 10th are percentages. It's 33, and it's 31, and it's 20. Those are the amount of students who passed last year. an AP that's a 3, 4, or 5. And finally, there's one here and it's color coded. So Verona is maroon naturally. New Jersey, I dedicate blue, and that's everyone in this state. And then global is everyone who outside of this state, including us, that takes AP. If you take a look, it's in alphabetical order. It's really small. I will post this on the website when we're done. You're like, huh, I can't read that. But it goes from biology and calculus all the way through world history. And it shows the bars are us and what our averages are for last year. And then what's in blue is what the New Jersey average is. And then the orange is the global. What I will say is that for the most part, we let any student take any AP class, which is wonderful because we want to allow that. We want to have that safety and security here. A lot of other school districts, unfortunately, still do not do that. They only allow certain students to take AP classes. That's why some of the averages, in my opinion, are higher than us. And this is Peter, come on up.
I'm just going to briefly run through some of our courses and our averages over the last several years. I think these averages are a really strong testament to our students, to the parent support they receive at home, and our amazing teachers who through a pandemic continue to deliver a AP level curriculum, sometimes virtually, sometimes in a hybrid model. And our students certainly retained a lot of that information, as you can see. Here we have our AP chemistry scores over the last several years with an average score of 3.85 since 2012. That's really incredible for AP chemistry. Here we have our AP computer science principles scores over the last 6 years. We average a 3.15. Here we have our AP English Lang scores, average of 3.65 since 2012 with a 3.53 average last year, really incredible. Another special highlight, our AP English Lit scores with a 4.05 average last year with 19 students enrolled. I think what's really special to highlight about our AP Human Geography course is that our average over the past 7 years was a 3.75 with 41 students enrolled. That's an incredible enrollment for an elective AP course. Our AP Spanish Language and Culture scores are also strong with a 3.22 since 2017. Our average APUSH, AP US History score is at a 3.38 since 2014. This is an incredibly challenging course. Many students begin their study for this exam in their sophomore year during US 1 honors. What I think is particularly important to point out about our AP World History scores, which sat at a 4.18, which is truly incredible in 2022. All of these students are freshmen. And not many school districts offer AP World History to freshmen. So this is really a testament to excellent group of students and an excellent teacher. So one thing that we've studied over the last several years, and I will give a shout out to Mr. Wirtz, who compiled much of this data for us. The College Board puts out a formula per se, to help us calculate how students may do on AP tests. It looks at their PSAT scores and predicts how well they'll score on an AP exam. So in many of these cases, as you'll see, our students were predicted to get a 3 or above. And in many of these cases, far more students earned a 3 or above than predicted. We like to call that the teacher effect. Those are students who far out tested where we might have thought they would be. It's a testament to our students and a testament to our teachers. Here we have that same teacher effect graph. These are students who were predicted to score a 4 or above. So you'll see, for example, in AP Lit, 5 students were predicted to earn a 4, and in actuality 14 did. Or in Human Geography, for example, 13 students were predicted to earn a 4 or above, and in actuality, 24 did. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Dr. Miller.
So again, going back to 2009, you can see we had 12 AP scholars. So those were, the classes weren't as open. The walls were coming down, and we're like, hey, maybe I can take this. Maybe I can take this course. And as you can see, like in blue are our AP scholars. And when you get to orange and red, it becomes like an honor and distinction. And what is in green, they've removed, that used to be what's called the National AP Scholar. That has been removed the past 2 or 3 years. But I wanted you to take a look at, we had 64 last year. The year before that, we had 89. And in the year 2020, we had 123 AP scholars. So we think, again, over time, as we get learning back, we will increase again, but it's still pretty incredible to have 64 AP scholars, and some of you are here tonight. So that's why we want to celebrate you and your hard work. So an AP scholar, there are 40 students from last year who are AP scholars. It's granted to students who receive scores of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read the names, and Mrs. Peter, you come up.
Right, if you're here and you'd like to come up to grab your certificate, that would be great. Sydney Aiello. Milo Atal. Alden Bermeo. Emily Bosco. Alec Breitenbach. Nicholas Canal. Abigail Castillo. John Cleaver. Jasmine Cortes Ruiz. Christian Cunningham. Jessica Day. Natalie De Leon. Andrew De La Fera, I'm sorry. Ella Dedarian. Mary Kate Dougherty. Ashley Duhaney. Lucas Ferreira. Olivia Geeson. Michelle Greenberg. Alec Hampson. Tyler Holland.
Alana Holton. Patrick Human. Nicholas Jacobson. Giselle Jandoli. Logan Makanowski. Congratulations. Ella Matthewson. Abby Miller. Samantha Pecora. Christopher Petrino. Catherine Rapoli. Shalina Sepaw. Christopher Sluck. Dylan Torriello. Allison Volpe. Dionysia Yaniotis. Riley Yang. Emma Zaluski. Paige Zickerman. And finally, Stephanie Zamani.
Okay, the next awards are for AP Scholars with Honor. These students have received an average of at least 3.25 on all of the AP exams they've taken and a score of 3 or higher on 4 or more exams. AP Scholars this year are Jane Bartel, Raymond Chesney, Isabel Chiang, Christian DePesci, Stefano Faro, Michael Coslin, Carly Renna, Josephine Shust, and David Sidrock.
Right. We have our AP Scholar with distinction. There are 15 students. Granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams taken, and then scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. Okay. Little drum roll. Evan Bannon. Stephen Bartel. Congratulations. Abigail Cleary. Julianne French. Nicole Hageman. Anders Heiniger. All right. Thank you. James McHugh. Did I say Jack? Okay. Oh, so sorry, Gene. Oops, whoops, I messed up. So it was, you got the wrong one. Switch. Take back the clap again. We'll say both James and John McHugh. So. All right. Ryan Meyer. Amelia. How do you say it? Nizolak. All right. Thank you so much. Mrs. Peter had me practice, but I froze. Sophia Nunez. Sophia Saj. Trevor Semerera. Congrats. Nadine Sherabi. And finally, Annalie Yang. In closing, we would just like to show a little graphic here. 40 AP Scholar students, their average was a 3.10. 9 students who earned Scholar with Honor, their average was a 3.42. and our scholars with distinction, 15 students. Their average was a 4.25. We did have some students that took on upwards of 12 AP classes throughout their career. So that's pretty incredible. I think we should give one more round of applause to all of our recipients. And nothing makes us more proud is when you go to college or university and you come back and you tell us the experiences that you have and what you've learned. And while you're still here, it's also nice to hear. But what we traditionally do, because this is the 10th year we've done this, is we press pause for our board report. We're going to go down towards the auditorium where we're going to take a group photo of everyone who's here. Parents, you can jump in too if you'd like. We'll put this on the web page, and then you are free to go.
I'm just
Okay.
gonna, Charlie, I just want to say
Oh.
something quick before you
Oh,
go,
sure.
is congratulations
Sorry.
to each one of you students who put in so much, sweat and study into this, the parents, because I know the stress. And just really quickly, I was part of the regime whose student had to test in. And not only were there barriers to entry, there was a punitive part to it, because if you overrode the recommendation and your child tried it, you couldn't get out of it. So I think removing the barriers and letting the students take control of your own learning, choose the classes that you want at the level you want, is an incredible opportunity for you all. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It's well earned.
Good. Okay. So if you'd like to come for pictures too, you can. It's up to you. Let's go.
agenda. Our audience left. So we have the superintendent's report. Ms. Di Giuseppe.
Good evening. Kind of short this evening. I don't want to make it too long because of the presentation. I just want to update the board of the school safety plans that we're developing at the much more comprehensive school safety plans are just about finished. I have to sign this statement of assurance on the 30th of November. I met with the elementary principals today who are just tying up the last couple of pieces on those plans, which actually are about 45 pages each. They're very comprehensive. They do conform to the administrative code and the state statute for meeting this incredibly difficult to meet 91 items on a checklist for school safety. We are also going to be meeting with the district safety committee after after Thanksgiving to put together a plan on how to train our staff, refresher training, as well as new training. We have a lot of new safety accoutrement, if we will, that we can't just put up shades on windows and expect people to know, like, when am I supposed to drop them, whatever. So we need to do some training with that. And then Mr. Martin from the Verona Police is going to come in and start training on the FEMA model, which is called Run, Hide, Fight, which is a more modern approach to lockdown and active shooter drills. So we'll be preparing that. Along those lines, we are also certifying the memorandum of agreement with law enforcement. That's a boilerplate thing. It happens every year. But I met last week with Chief Kiernan, and we went through it and signed off on it. Did it come to you yet? It did. Okay, so then it'll go to the county prosecutor for his signature as well. We are also embarking on a climate survey committee to start addressing or assessing, I should say, not addressing, assessing climate in the district for students and staff. And we'll also send home an opportunity for parents to participate in a climate survey as well. Once we get those results, we can take a look at how our schools are faring with regard to the individual climates. We do have some information from last year's surveys that were done by Grand River. I was going to say Grand Rapids, but that's a city somewhere. Grand River. Although this climate survey is very different, not very different, but it's slightly different than what they did. So I'm not sure we'd be able to compare the two together, but we would definitely start with a baseline this year, and that's working with Rutgers University School Climate Initiative. I also just submitted yesterday, with the help of Mr. Belage, thank you so much, because the state, in its infinite confusion, we have to do what's called the school report card narrative. So when the school report cards come out later in the year, they'll have a lot of data. There is one piece that's a narrative. Each school provides information on a variety of areas. There's about 50 columns. About 15 of those have to do with whether or not you have baseball for boys and girls, co-ed, et cetera. But for the most part, it covers your highlighted areas, your how you address the impact of COVID. We've all seen the narrative. So you've all seen the school report card. There's a lot of information there. For whatever reason, the state asks that we put our narrative into a spreadsheet, because that would be normally where you would construct a narrative. So the problem is that all the principals construct their narrative in their little row of boxes, and you can't read what you've written. And each cell has a specific type, and a number of characters are allowed for that particular cell. So And this year it didn't work. So the principal, I did the district, the principals did all of their buildings. They sent it to me. I assembled it into one. We tried to upload it. I think, Mr. Balash, did I upload maybe 14 times with errors? I think 14, maybe 15 times, getting a different error every time, fixing the error, not finding the errors. And finally, Mr. Balash put it in by hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I had to go in and override it with the new, yes, so it was a tag team effort of cutting and pasting. But it's done and I'm time well spent, yes. So I'm getting also ready to do the parent meet and greet. I've been out in the community a lot, but not for a formal meet and greet with parents. So right after November, right after Thanksgiving, we'll have several evening meetings for parents to come out and it feels weird because I've been here for 4 months, but it is only 4 months. We are also doing a practice run for CUSAC for next year so that we can address any deficits or roadblocks that we might hit now instead of next year when we're officially. And for those of you that don't know, CUSAC is how school districts are monitored. It stands for Quality Single Accountability Continuum. And we get monitored every 3 years. We haven't been monitoring in a long time because the old way of monitoring allowed districts like Verona to opt out or be waived because we're high achieving. That went away with this new CUSAC monitoring. So we know we are next year for the first time in, let's say 12, 15 years. So we are going to do a practice run this year just to make sure we're all set to succeed on that. That's my report for this evening. I'm sorry it's not as exciting or fun as giving out the certificates. And at next meeting reminder, I will have information about the consultants both for strategic planning and demographic study.
Great.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions for?
I have a question.
Oops, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, thank you. So mine's pretty quick. So with the security memorandum of agreement, are there any cameras that we have in any of the schools? And does that MOA allow the police access to our cameras in case there's ever some kind of active situation where they can look at those cameras from the computers in their cars?
That's a great question. Yes, the police can actively log into our system and view our cameras remotely from their cars or from the Verona Police Department headquarters.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for asking this question.
The question that I had was, it was sort of related to that, regarding the presentation that you showed us last time with the updated systems and everything. Is there like progress on that? Can you update us on that?
Yeah, so you're talking about the mapping, the building mapping. Yes. So we actually pushed ourselves back a little bit because when Alpha sent us the newest floor maps, I sent them to I can't remember the name of the company right now. I'm so sorry. I'm not to the mappers. We'll call them the mappers. And they kind of they would rather use them because they're a better quality map. So they started it with the other maps. They're going to stop and use the new maps, the most up to date. The Alpha maps that Mr. Neutrali gave me actually indicate even where every fire extinguisher is. They're much more comprehensive than what we had from referendum or our recent building maps. So, but it shouldn't be much longer for them to set up a date to come out and look at our school buildings.
Thank
And
you.
you're
And then
welcome.
the other question that I have is regarding the run, fight, hide training. So I was on that meeting with Officer Martin and Chief Kiernan when they first introduced that to us, and I had reported out on that. I guess, and I, as a teacher, sort of with my teacher hat on, expressed just some concerns over, the sort of stress and anxiety that some of these trainings may induce, particularly when our students are involved. And, he assured us that it really is, it's FEMA running the show and these are their recommendations, but really they're borderline requirements at this point. In terms of the new training and keeping us up to date and keeping our buildings as secure as possible. And when we talk about things like active shooter drills, can you just give us a little bit more detail as to what that entails without sort of giving away everything? You know what I mean? Like, so I know what an active shooter drill is, right? Because I'm a teacher and I live it all the time. But I think to the layperson, that may sound like you have people coming in and pretending that they have guns and things like that. So if you can just sort of clarify that, please.
Sure. So an active shooter drill in a school is actually never broadcast as being an active shooter drill. So it's a lockdown drill. So you have two different ways that you can lock down. Well, there's several different ways, but for the most part, if you go back to when lockdown drills became mandatory across the country and in New Jersey, we had to do so many drills per year, lockdown at least 3. So locking down is just a matter of you can either do it the old-fashioned way, which I want to go on record by saying the Department of Education still supports the old-fashioned. You hide in a corner, get out of line of sight, quiet in the room, and that's how we practice a lockdown. So no one comes in with. Actually, Governor Murphy signed a bill into law last year that doesn't allow any school districts that would have used props, which I guess there were if people were complaining, but I can't imagine. Yeah. So the other options would be similar to a run, hide, fight, or most of the districts in Morris County use Alice, which is very similar. It just says you read your environment. You see if you have an intruder in the building, the teachers will know because they'll get it and share 911 on their app. And if they are on a first floor with an exit door and the intruder's in the building, get out. And that's kind of the idea. Or if someone is to enter your room, throw things at them. It's developmentally instructed. My experience with this has been with the little ones. It can be done in a non-threatening, non-scary way if it's done well. I've not been trained in run, hide, fight yet, so I'm waiting for that training as well. I was trained year after year after year in Alice, and I don't recall any of our students being overly traumatized by being trained in that. I could see where it could be scary if it's not rolled out properly. But for the most part, we can do it really thoroughly without scaring the heck out of anybody. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just have one last question regarding the climate survey. I'm glad to hear that we are instituting another survey. Is this something you plan to do annually, twice a year? And will the surveys look different? Are we surveying students, parents, community members, or is it one blanket survey?
No, they're similar. Each of the surveys is similar to one another, but the surveys for the younger students, I believe it starts in grade 3 to grade 5, are slightly different than 6 to 12. And the staff survey is it's consistent across teachers versus non-teaching staff. There is an option to send home for parents. I haven't really delved too much into that one yet. I can share with the board what questions are asked. And I would love to do it annually. I have to talk to the Rutgers initiative. I'm not sure whether it's like a fall, spring, where you can compare within the same year, or it's year to year. We're not that deep into it yet. But this is something that is Rutgers has been doing school climate initiative for many years. It's always been a paper and pencil test. And now it's no longer paper pencil test. It's actually an online test. So you don't have to worry about scoring it. It gets scored automatically.
And
So,
these are voluntary.
These are voluntary. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going
Yeah,
to
they're
ask. It's
voluntary.
voluntary and students have the option to
Stu-
opt out.
yes,
Or
so,
parents could say, I don't want
Permission
my.
slips will go
Okay.
home. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Are there any other questions?
Okay, so we are going to continue along the agenda, and we have the business administrator's report or the board secretary report.
Good evening, everyone. I just have 2 minor updates for tonight's report. In finance, we have our September 2022 board secretary, the treasurers, and the budget transfer report. They're all in agreement. Our auditors, Nisavacha, will be presenting at the next board meeting, the 2022-21 audit report. I invite everyone to tune in, same channel, same place, same location. That's on December 13th at 7 p.m. And lastly, resolution number 3 in finance is the approval of our 2022-23 comprehensive maintenance plan, which includes the anticipated maintenance work in our district for the 2022-23 school year and a tentative budgeted work for 2023-24. This report is an annual requirement to the NJDOE, which it is also used for our development of our 2022, the development of our 2023-24 buildings and grounds budget. This is my conclusion for the report today. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions for Mr. Cruz? Thank you, Mr. Cruz. That was short and sweet. And our student representative is not here this evening, Ms. Sahato. And I did not get a student report, so she will report out at the next meeting, which would be December 13th. So we're going to skip over that, and we're going to go to committee reports. Did facilities meet?
Yes, we did.
Oh, you want, okay.
Saying this one?
I'm sorry, you spoke. I got confused. We discussed the bus sale. And it's for the 54 passenger bus. The Hunterdon County Cooperative is doing our bidding for us. And we have not received a satisfactory bid, so we will continue on with that sale.
I would suggest we paint it like the Partridge Family, make it this crazy bus, and then people would want to buy it. What do you think?
Or sell it for
Okay.
parts, right? The new work order platform through Brightly is or should be up and running, if not before December 1st. And teachers will have access to this program. It's really streamline all of our work orders, create significant efficiencies within our work order program. So this could be anything from my heat isn't working to I need my desks raised because I'm moving, my classroom is changing from a 3rd grade to a 6th grade classroom kind of a thing or whatever. And the principals do have to approve all of them. So there still is some oversight to that, which is great. And our stormwater repairs, landing is totally complete. FM Brown is almost done. All of the catch basins have been fixed and any piping repaired as identified through the maintenance that was done. And all of that is covered with extra referendum funding. And lastly, Mr. Naturelli met with our new architects and did site visits to all the buildings. And that is, they are also going to be drawing up new 3D plans for all of our buildings, which I think is probably the coolest part of this. And they went over our comprehensive maintenance plan, our long range facility plans, and we're given access to all of the alpha reporting that we reported out at last meeting. And Mr. Naturelli is expected to report out on that in December, that alpha report. And that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm very happy to see the architects are jumping right in there, working with the director of facilities and doing the tour of the campus and validating all the buildings and potentially what might be in a long-term and short-term project. So I'd see them jumping in there. So. And the stormwater repairs were pretty massive. The pictures we saw, it was a lot of piping, a lot of digging, and I'm glad that that's over with and that's completed because that's critical, especially in the wintertime coming and the potential weather hazards. So that's it. Any questions?
Did we, and I might have missed it, did we get any update on the repair to the playground flooring?
That I think we reported out on at the last meeting.
Oh,
They are gonna patch it.
Yes,
That's what I
they
thought,
are,
I
and
didn't
that's
know
all
if
covered. Yep.
Okay, they did extend the
Under the
warranty. So
warranty, yep.
they're gonna patch, I guess, after the winter? Or?
No,
Oh,
it's,
it's
yeah, they
already done
finished it all,
already.
yeah.
Got you. All right, perfect. Thank you.
If there's no other questions regarding facilities, we'll go on to finance. So it was Mr.
Yes,
Waka
sorry,
and
Miss-
Mr. Day.
Mr. Trappy's telling me my microphone's on because I'm doing a report. That's why it's on. So, yeah, for the finance committee, Mr. Walker and I met with Mr. Cruz and Mrs. DiGiuseppe. Mr. Cruz already hit a couple of the primary points. So we talked about the big bus. So hopefully we'll be able to get some additional bidding going for that and see what we can do because it is bus is, good shape and runs well. So, I recommend it Facebook Marketplace. Mr. Cruz laughed at me like he is now. But whatever we need to do, but I think it's something that it is a commodity that we should be able to make some money from. The order presentation, you talked about that. I wanted to highlight that the finance committee potentially, or two board members at least, will be meeting with the audit, the key audit partner, Ray, to talk about the report prior to the meeting on the 13th. So we'll have a little insight about the audit, but the new auditors that we've been using have been great. So we're very happy to look forward to hearing the details about that report. Mr. Cruz talked about the comprehensive maintenance plan and the mid-year budget review, the DOE reporting. Also, we had staff benefits in school presentations presented at each building, and those presentations cover key features available to our employee portal through the employee portal and covers benefits for all full-time staff at Verona Public Schools. So good information there. And then we talked about the FY24 budget build. So the administrators and department heads will receive access to build their 23-24 budgets. And so that basically the superintendent and the BA will review, meet with each principal and department head in January to talk about those budget builds. So any questions?
Mr. Walker, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or did Mr. Day cover it?
I think he covered everything, but I know we've been talking about buses. And I know that we were a little bit disappointed when we didn't get the electric bus. I just found out that the state actually flipped the script and the free buses aren't free anymore. And they're requiring districts to put up the first $145,000 worth of the purchase and the installation. So Mr. Cruz, when that comes up next year, just be warned about that because that kind of changes the whole dynamic of that. But I think everything else was accurate.
Yep. No, duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And we are going to continue on. And next on the agenda is public comments on agenda action items. So if anybody has anything, and I do not see anything, so we are going to continue on to discussion items. If there's any old or new business that needs to be brought up.
I was not able to go see Romeo and Juliet at the high school
I
this
wasn't
week,
either.
It's amazing.
and I really regret it. We had every intention to go, and then every night something else came up and we were not able to go, and I'm really upset that I didn't go. So congrats to all the students, cast and crew, and thank you to all the staff and teachers who help support our music and arts programs.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Drappi. Yeah, I wanted to go too, and then I had a conflict and I couldn't change it. Oh, so that was great.
Before you go on, I just think just to note that while there are lots of modern adaptations to Romeo and Juliet, this was not a modern adaptation. And the students, it was amazing. It was, there are no words. I can't wait to see the musical.
That's like an incredible undertaking because that is not that's not an easy go.
Yeah, that's great. So we are going to move on to voting on our resolutions. So I need a motion to accept resolution number one. So again, just to remind everybody, we're not doing the consent agenda format. So we're going to be doing them in buckets according to what our subcommittees are. So it'll be a little longer, but more easily followed for the public. So I need a motion to approve resolution number 1. Moved by
Second.
Mr. Day, second by Mrs. Prisco. And is there any discussion on that? Okay, if not, Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy, before you move on to personnel, I just want to point out that the 2 paraprofessionals on lines 2 and 3, that comma should be after the 8, it should be 18,000, not 1,008.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1.1 through 1.5.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi, second by Mrs. Prisco. Is there any discussion? If not, Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call?
Mr. Walker,
Approved, yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion moved.
Excellent, thank you. So the next bucket is under education. I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 through 4 under education. Moved by Mrs. Prisco,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. Is there any discussion on any of those items? Seeing that there's none, Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion moved on 1 through 4.
Excellent. So the next bucket is policy. So I need a resolution to approve, a motion, I'm sorry, to approve resolutions number 1 and 2 under policy.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say, I appreciate your work, Ms. Giuseppe, on policy 2330, the homework policy. There were a tremendous amount of changes to that policy, and I think it is much more equitable going forward. And I think it's always a good policy to continue to look at, continue to change as our, educational landscape change, as pedagogical practices, best practices change. But thank you for your work on that.
Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion moved.
Thank you. And now we have special education. I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 and 2.
So move.
Moved by Mrs. Prisco,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. And is there any discussion on those?
I just have a question on number 1, the bilingual child study team. I'm assuming, this is a third-party contract. Okay, and can you sort of explain how this, I haven't seen this contract. Is
I
it in
have
our
not.
folder?
This is something we do every year, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah, this is a rotating. I don't know much about this company. This is just something we approve each year in case we need it.
okay.
I'm sorry, I don't.
No,
have
that's
one.
okay. I
Yeah.
guess the second question I have is, do we also provide stipends for teachers or staff who provide bilingual services or translation services? Because that's what I would assume that this is for, right? A child
Yes,
study
yes.
team, and this is translation services, right?
Yes, they'll assess students in their native language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion? If not, Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion passed.
Okay, then we have athletics and co-curricular. I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 through 2.1.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. Is there any discussion?
I want to know what Fiber Arts Club is.
Yeah, that's what
I know
I
it's a
was gonna
trial
ask.
basis, but I'm interested. I want
It's
to
a
know.
knitting club.
Knitting? That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
I love
knitting.
that.
It is great. Yeah.
If there's no more discussion, Mr. Cruz, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum, motion passed.
Okay, we have finance coming up next. I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 through 6 under finance.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Prisco,
Second.
second by Mrs. Drappi. Is there any discussion? If not, Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll calls?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes,
Motion passed on resolution 166.
excellent. Thank you very much. And we have one addendum resolution. And I don't know if this went out to the public, so I am going to read this addenda resolution. It's that the board approved based on the recommendation of the superintendent, to approve the report cards for grades kindergarten through grade 4 for the 2022-2023 academic school year. I need a motion to accept the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, but my only question is it, why are we doing that? I've never seen that done before. Is it something we're supposed to do to approve report cards every market period?
No, only these are, oh, that's so loud. These are new from last year. They were actually, if you recall, Mr. Walker, Dr. Miller discussed them with the Ed Committee way back in October.
Oh, I see the standards. I got you.
Yeah, the standard space report cards, but they didn't make it onto the agenda.
They didn't. They were revised over the summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good,
were-
thank you.
Yeah, but they didn't make it on. Yeah.
But they're getting ready to submit them, so we have to approve them. Yeah.
Okay, I vote yes.
Okay, so Mr. Cruz, roll call. You'll have to do that again, Chris.
Yes, Mr. Walker,
I'll vote yes again.
Double
Mr.
yes.
Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Freshy.
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And we are going to continue to move on with our agenda. And at this point, we're going to open it up to public comments on any topics at all. Any takers? No, we don't have any public comments.
Before we move on, I just want to congratulate Ms. Ferrara and Ms. Frizella on your win and wishing you best of luck in your term as board members.
Yeah, congratulations. So on that note, I did start the onboarding process. I put together a bunch of links and sent them both an email with some basic information, timelines, what we need to do. And we, Mrs. Prisco and I are going to meet with our 2 board members elect the Tuesday after Thanksgiving to just sit down. They'll have an opportunity to review some of that preliminary stuff because we really need to hit the ground running in January. And we'll have a really new board,
Yeah.
so.
And Mrs. Brazell and I have a meeting scheduled and we need to set up one on the calendar with Mrs. Farrar. But I just want to kind of get an idea. Mr. Cruz shared with me the binder. It's a hefty binder.
It's huge.
It's huge. So for the past several years, I did an electronic binder. I would be more than happy to do an electronic binder rather than, I mean, I don't know if you want it in print, it's already done. We just have to make a photocopy. But when I say big,
It's like this. big.
it's like a 6-inch binder. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know,
And
I think my
Is there
concern
one
is,
copy, like hard copy that's done?
yeah, Jorge has-
Yeah, because
Jorge
if
has it.
there's one in the board office, so if you ever felt the need to grab onto it.
Yeah, my concern is not just the massive nature of it,
It
but
gets
so much of
updated.
those gets updated
gets
throughout the
updated.
year and
Yeah,
then
that's all dated.
somebody's got
It's all
to,
dated now.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, somebody's got to get in and update those policies and you'll all have access to the policy, electronic policy binder and regulation binder.
So you were gonna get us login because we didn't realize.
Yes, and
That we could log in.
so there are, every board gets 15 slots, 15 user IDs. Right now, we have all of those 15 taken plus another 2 and 11 people on that list no longer work here.
Wow.
As you
So
can
when
see,
I
there
got
will
the
be
list, I
work
said,
to
oh
do."
my goodness, they don't work here anymore. So I sent that list back and said, you can remove these people. Once they remove them, they will add in the 5 board members and a couple of new administrative admin hires that we have that are also not included. I mean, you can get to the policies and regulations if you go to the parent portal, but there's more information if you have the login, because they also give you access to administrative code and state statute, where 18A and 6A, and then also model policies from Strauss SMA, so you can peruse their model policy bank as well. So it's definitely worth having as a board member that you. So yes, we'll get that.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
And I do want to say thank you to Mrs. Prisco, because she shared, twice a year, there's a delegate assembly, and it's a 3-hour sacrifice of a Saturday morning. And Mrs. Prisco did attend, so thank you for, being there on behalf of Verona Board of Ed. And what the delegate assembly is, for anybody who doesn't know, that's really our connection to the legislative world, to the people who are down in Trenton making the decisions. So if there's ever something that this board wanted to put forth as a resolution on a statewide, for statewide consideration, it would go through this assembly delegation. And we usually have 2 board members, a voting delegate and a alternate. And one of us always tries to tune in or drive down to Trenton for it. So it's just really something interesting, because you get to see firsthand how the laws are made, what's coming up the pike. And if we ever do want to contribute to that, this is the place. And it's done in May and again in November. So it's just something to keep in mind. So thank you, Mrs. Prisco. And with that, Mr. Walker, do you have anything that you wanted to add before we conclude?
I did not.
Right, perfect. So I do want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy your holiday. And we are going to adjourn the meeting. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mrs. Drappi, second
Second.
by Mr. Day. And I need a verbal, all in favor.
Aye.
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 Aye, and it is
Aye.
8:13. We're officially adjourned. Thank you for attending and have a great holiday, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Oh, sorry. Our next board meeting, thank you, Mrs. Prisco, is December 13th. So Tuesday, December 13th at 7 PM in the Verona High School Learning Commons. Signing off. Have a good night, everybody.